Member for Laborie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to the debate on the motion to borrow $16,192,000 US from the Caribbean Development Bank for the purpose of financing the St. Lucia Education Quality Improvement Project. Because, Mr. Speaker, education is one of the basic needs for human development and to escape poverty. Sir Arthur Lewis said it beautifully when he said that the cure for poverty is not money, but education. A view which has been reinforced by the late Bob Marley, who said, "Some people are so poor, all they have is money." The late Bob Marley said that some people are so poor, all they have is money. So, Mr. Speaker, education is necessary for national development and for a prosperous society. Education allows workforces to be more efficient, it keeps inflation at bay, and it feeds economic growth. Government and society, therefore, have a vested interest in ensuring a constant flow of students in higher education. It is urgent to ensure good quality of higher education for society's own interest, Mr. Speaker. Seminal figures in the field of education and public policy have always argued that education is so important that you must deep into your national resources to ensure that you educate your people. Because that's the only way we are going to make strides as a nation. Russia mounted from the status of underdeveloped poor country to a superpower and developed country mainly on the wings of education. Japan owes its phenomenal growth as an industrial power to education. And there is no doubt in my mind, Mr. Speaker, that the Labour Party, whether in opposition or in government, will always be committed to quality education and quality healthcare. We have always made education and healthcare urgent priorities. And a casual glance at history will provide evidence to substantiate this claim. Mr. Speaker, I noted during our debate on the estimates as well as the appropriation bill, and for the sake of clarity, I want to, of course, revisit just a portion of what I said on the whole issue of education to find a ready compass in which to set my course. I noted on that occasion, Mr. Speaker, it is well recognized that a skilled workforce is a necessary incentive for attracting foreign direct investment and making St. Lucia more competitive. The skill endowments of the labor force are indispensable for learning, technology absorption, productivity, improvement, diversification, and overall competitiveness. Investors have also cited skill availability to be a critical factor in their investment decisions. Mr. Speaker, on page 146 of the 2005 World Bank publication, it noted, and I quote, "The returns on education in the Caribbean are significant, especially at the post-secondary education level, has a return of 21%. The return to education depends primarily upon the quality and quantity of supply in comparison to demand. The high returns indicate that education is a scarce factor of production and that firms are willing to pay a substantially higher wage for well-educated workers." Unquote. It went on to say on that same page, Mr. Speaker, that the variation of returns to education within the Caribbean can be related to the variation in supply of skills. 3 examples. Barbados, whose successful education system is able to produce high-quality supply of skills, provides high-quality workers with relatively low returns, thereby contributing to increased competitiveness of Barbadian firms. 2, The low supply of workers with secondary education in the Dominican Republic has led to high returns to workers at this educational attainment level, 7% compared to 3% in Barbados. And 3, low production of tertiary graduates in the OECS countries has driven up the returns to education at this level. Example, 22% in St. Lucia, resulting in very high labor costs for firms, unquote. Mr. Speaker, a table on that same page showing private returns to education in the Caribbean by country, market surveys show that in the countries depicted, Barbados, Dominican Republic, Guyana, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia was the worst performer in terms of competitiveness. This is why, Mr. Speaker, between 1997 and 2006, the Labour Party felt it necessary to end the shift system in our schools. Most of our young people, they ended their primary school life in Standard 4. They did not have an opportunity to go to a secondary school. And so it made return to education very high and were less competitive at that particular point in time. However, we work assiduously towards ensuring that we had universal secondary education in this country. We expanded existing secondary schools, and we built new secondary schools. And today, we are more competitive at that level. But, Mr. Speaker, we didn't get there by accident. It was a deliberate priority of my government. Many poor persons could not go to school. Poverty was a bar to learning. The Labour Party said learning must offer an escape from poverty. And so through social transformation, we started to assist our families in St. Lucia to ensure that every child has an opportunity to access a secondary school. So they were assisted with uniforms, they were assisted with books, they were assisted with transportation, they were assisted in a holistic way to ensure that they had a secondary education. We provided scholarships. We provided bursaries for the sons and daughters of toil, Mr. Speaker. And so members opposite from time to time would come with some kind of strange logic about we don't care about young people, we want people to be dependent on us. We empower people by educating them, to give them an opportunity to become professionals. And this is why today, Mr. Speaker, we can boast that we can get a variety of opinions. Because across society, both North and South, we have destroyed privilege. We have equalized opportunity for the sons and daughters of St. Lucia. We have destroyed privilege, and we have equalized opportunity. And give every son and daughter the opportunity to take their place responsibly beside others in our society and contribute to national growth and development. At this juncture, I had a member for Castle Southeast spoke about MBA. And I want to, in a very sincere way, offer my congratulations to the honorable member from Castle Southeast. I am proud of you for recognizing the importance of education. I saw you speaking there with some newfound freedom. I heard you speaking unencumbered by fear, with authority. I heard you a few months ago talking about consumption, about India and Japan. I welcome that, honorable member. I welcome that. Earlier on the announcements,
so what do you not welcome?
What I do not welcome, there's a book that I read about straight and crooked thinking. And the honorable member is skilled in the manipulation of falsehood and will take facts sometimes and, of course, from some kind of misleading linear progression. He shaped it into his own image and likeness on the announcements. He spoke about St. Jude's. And of course, yes, on the statements by ministers, the member for Beaufort South raised a very significant point about public health. And all of that will have to contribute to the quality of education. Many persons are very concerned about the quality of education vis-a-vis the quality of healthcare in our country. They go hand in hand. The health of the nation is the wealth of the nation. If you're not healthy, you cannot study in a way to achieve and to excel as you'd like to if you're a healthy being. And therefore, St. Jude's cannot be a trivial matter. Now, May is reading month. Reading month. And I heard the member for Castle South East reading from a document during a statement, which was made a document of the House, about the whole issue about St. Jude's. And I beg leave, Mr. Speaker, whilst I discuss the quality of education, to read from that same document. That very document, he stated, talk about the initial plans about St. Jude's, to have St. Jude's, the people return to the burnt structure. 2 years later, on September 9th, 2011, and they would build a new hospital at Beausejour. They promised that the people would be back by 9th of September 2011. In August of 2011, Prime Minister King at the time, the member for Castries North, said no, they are going to remain at the site. And so a new scope of works came into being. Prior to the Labour Party, we had an individual dealing with the reconstruction of St. Jude's Hospital. We had a consultant engineer dealing with the hospital. We had a committee from health, from budget office, from economic planning, dealing with the reconstruction of the hospital, in consonance with the CEO of St. Jude's. The CEO at St. Jude's has its own committee to ensure that the flow and everything were appropriate. The members opposite were crying out, finish St. Jude's, finish St. Jude's. Even now, they are saying we should have finished St. Jude's. Now, by saying that we should have finished St. Jude's, inherent in that statement is a clear acknowledgement that St. Jude's needs to be finished. And I want to, of course, he went through a list of contracts.
Honorable Member for Laborie, I will not try to stop your, but what I will say to you, remember what we discussed.
Certainly, I've made that nexus.
And therefore, the statement by the member is not open for debate. I will not tell you don't make mention of the statement, but you need to tie the two.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe that I made a clear nexus between health and education.
Oh, you made the statement. Yes, I heard it.
Yes,
I want you to continue moving the two.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sometimes when you're navigating and you are confronted with clear air turbulence sometimes, you have to divert. So I was engaged in a logical digression, Mr. Speaker. But this is your chamber, Mr. Speaker. This is your chamber. And so I will be obedient. I don't want to be recalcitrant in this chamber. But just to add and to conclude on the St. Jude's matter, to indicate that most of the contracts dealing with that facility that's important for school children, that the contractor they appointed until December 2014, at that point, according to the financials of dealing with that hospital, $50,150,385.90 were already spent at that point. And the total during our time was $98.4 million. So he was trying to make this house a victim of misleading information, and by extension, the general public. But of course, on another occasion, Mr. Speaker, we will continue that debate about St. Jude's. Only to say that based on the urgency of the situation, this government has absolutely no alternative but to complete the St. Jude's Hospital. It seemed as if nothing is a priority in the South for this UWP administration. They come take our lands and give it away, and they cannot even build a few classrooms to accommodate Form 1 students. They cannot build a few classrooms at Binfield to put the students. So all we want to do is come, mastipe on the people of Beaufort, take their lands to make a petty bourgeois enclave that will not generate any jobs for the people of the South, that will not fix up their school plants, that will not improve the quality of education. And it's okay. They expect the opposition to just remain silent. To just remain silent. You see, the contents take the shape of the container. And the container is a horse. Everything in this country is now subordinated into the supreme interest of some horse business. And this is the problem, Mr. Speaker. The government has sufficient time to erect a structure at Binfield to accommodate the children that they are asking today to go and apply for other schools. You know how stressful that is? When young children are studying, looking forward to going to Binfield, they are dreaming about the place at Binfield, the seat at Binfield. And you come during the time that they are preparing for the exams, you introduce this kind of trauma in their life. And then you come here and pretend as if you're so concerned about young people. During our NYC days, we always said that education is a right, not a privilege. And the member for Cassie South, who was an active participant in the process, could attest to the veracity of this declaration. We emerge out of the need to educate our young people so that they can provide leadership and take our country to a new plane of development. But we cannot take our country to a new plane if we are not serious about addressing the quality of education in our country. And you know what? The amazing thing is they laugh. They laugh. They laugh at the rights of humanity. They laugh at the people of Beaufort. And when they are called to consult with the people, what they do? They announce some town hall meeting. And when people get there, it's actually a constituency group meeting, throwing people out, deleting the things from their phones, as if, you know, somehow that the business of the country is a secret. And then they organize an open day for their supporters to go to try to distort the reality of things. And we organize a rally, they run to Lacouville and tell the people all sorts of truth. We'll see. I'll tell you, whilst the people of Miku have a tradition of voting for a particular party, the people are educating themselves. And even though they support the party, they can make a distinction between what is true and what is not true. And they went to Lacouville, and they could not advance logical and cogent arguments to substantiate any of the things that they were saying. Just imagine, in the process of coming into office, they have called us all types of names. They have called us niggers, they have called us dogs, they call us terrorists.
No, Honorable Leader.
And only recently, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable members.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Members. Honorable Member for Laborie. Honorable members, please. Honorable member for Vieux-Fort South and honorable member for Laborie. Use some very strong words that I believe that you should not have. Yeah, but then you're the one saying it now. And I am not taking issue with what may have been, but when you stand here and you say that persons call you dogs and all kind of, it is moving into unparliamentary language now, because we're not supposed to, honorable member for, we're not supposed to be insultive or use obscene language to other members of this house or any other house.
One thing I will say, you have to speak to history. I never come to this house and try to mislead anybody. What I have said is not subject to debate or compromise. Not even the best political liar can refute anything that I have said. And Mr. Speaker,
you see, honorable member, you can remain standing, honorable member, because all I will do, I do not, in your use of whatever term you want to use, once you're making reference to fellow members here, then your language must change.
But I wasn't
That's
the one who used the language.
Oh, I'm not saying it was not used or it was.
Yes, I was.
Yes, I'm saying once you stand there and you're using those language or these words, and it may be reflective or impute on members here, I'm saying that I am going to step in.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But the point has been made. The point has been made. And even last night, whilst I was watching the news, there was another one with a white glove saying something else which I will not introduce into this honorable house. You see, you heard the Prime Minister? You heard the Prime Minister? You heard the Prime Minister? Is that language acceptable in this house? Is that language acceptable in this house?
Honorable members, allow the member to come.
What is the nexus between a sheet of paper and toilets? What is the connection? What is the connection? Now, I'll say something, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is your chamber, like I said, and I'm going to be guided by you. But make no mistake about it, Mr. Speaker, that I'm not one of those timid individuals. This country calls for courage. And we are not going to be cowards in the face of your attempted bullying. We are not going to be intimidated by you.
Who is bullying you, member?
One, Mr. Speaker, this government is not committed to no quality education and no quality healthcare in this country. And I want to take my discourse on this subject to its logical conclusion by alluding to something that has been well documented. And I think the member for Vieux-Fort North raised it earlier when he spoke about the laptops. What is well documented, Mr. Speaker, is that effective use of ICT is an essential ingredient for attaining competitiveness in both services and the niche manufacturing sectors in the Caribbean. Many firms have utilized ICT to cut costs, improve communications with customers, improve logistics, overcome distance, and understand their competitive positioning in order to foster an environment for greater and more effective use of ICT. Policymakers would need to facilitate access, among other things. Apart from doing nothing to improve skill endowment, this government has destroyed the laptop program. Take it away from the poor people that were making use of it.
On a point of order,
What's the
I
point of
think
order?
the honourable member is misleading the listening.
well.
What's the point of order? I'm not going to yield. What's the point of order?
Honorable
Wait,
member for
I have all
Laborie,
the time in
she
the
has,
world to find it. Wait.
just hold on.
33.
She has indicated she's standing on a point of order. So immediately I would like you to say it. Honorable member for Vieux-Fort North, please get to the.
Honourable, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have stood in this house
What's the
on
point of
numerous
order?
Yes, yeah.
occasions.
What's the point of order?
Just turn off your light, please.
Turn off all your microphones while I look.
Honorable member
I'm
for...
guided by you,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Go
because
ahead, let
I
me
was
hear.
going to rise on 35B, which is elucidation. If it is that he will allow an elucidation, he does not have to yield. But 34A requires that he yields. So whichever one I can exercise, either 34A or 35B, I think it is.
Very well.
Then
Laborie, are you yielding?
I am not yielding because I yielded to you, Mr. Speaker, who said that I know there is no point of order.
But Mr. Speaker, there is a point of elucidation I can also...
Elucidation. I'm not going to yield to the member for Mikunov.
I'm
Yes,
guided by
honorable
you,
members.
Mr. Chair.
Member for Mikunov, if it is a point of elucidation, then
does not have to
he
yield.
does not have to yield.
I
That's
accept
right.
that.
Well,
I'm not going to, if you say a point of order, I expected you to say that I'm imputing improper motives or misleading the House. I'm not
You are
misleading the House.
misleading the House.
go
I am
ahead,
not.
sir.
Your mic.
Thank you.
When the member for Laborie is speaking, you put off your mic. Only the Speaker has the authority to punctuate my presentation. But you see, Mr. Speaker, nobody will be fooled by this UWP administration. Everybody knows the truth. And at the end of the day, it is all well and good for you to say 40-something thousand people voted for you. But you must be sensitive to national mood. Every social partner that would speak in this country would be attacked. They are considered sectoral irritants. We cannot have peace in this country if that is going to be the attitude of the government. You are not securing an environment of peace for you to introduce policy. You are just provoking people. You attack the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association. You attack National Trust. And I'm sure, all of you talk, including the member for Grosile. While I'm speaking, you all are talking. You all are all afraid. You all know better. You all know better. But you see, there is something called identification with the aggressor in psychology. And I'm going to end with that. Where, in order to try to repress what is causing anxiety, some people can identify with people who have hijacked them. So you all are all there. You all know what is right. But, you all just have to clap and, pretend that what we are saying there does not make sense and it's not the truth. But tato, bola me pas loin. Bola me pas loin. This year, we are going to be midway very soon. And you'll have to account to the people of this country. No matter how big we think we are, no matter how powerful we think we are, in an instant, God will take charge. And I believe in God. That's why I fear no man. And I will speak my truth in this house and in my country of birth. I was born here. I was cooked and baked in this culture. I understand my people, and I will always give my people the best possible representation. So, Mr. Speaker, again, given the fact that we are committed to quality education, we have no difficulty, Mr. Speaker, in embracing this particular borrowing and to support the motion to borrow to improve quality. But of course, the quality of healthcare must equally be addressed, Mr. Speaker, and I want the member for Castries South East and the Prime Minister to finish our hospital, so that when the kids fall sick at the various institutions, they have a proper hospital to go to. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.